Hello there. So I'm Pauline Crawford, and I'm delighted today to have Harry Kiernan on screen with me, talking about men of the future. Now, my series about how do men see the world. And Harry, you are a movie star, and also a
Only
movie
in your eyes.
actor.
Oh,
Yeah,
only
you're
in
an
your eyes,
actor,
Pauline. Thank you.
and you're also a businessman, and you're of mature years like me. So you have a lot of history to look at this subject matter, and I'd love you to share with me what do you think is happening for men today. There's a lot of talk in the newspaper about masculine men and toxic communities and women trying to get on the boardroom. What does it look like from a man's point of view?
And it's not just because I love women. I think that any guy who tries to stop a woman from advancing is just insecure himself and is afraid. I really do. Or why not? Why wouldn't they let them, get better?
Yeah.
You know?
What might be something that they're afraid of?
I have no idea. Insecurities. That's all. Just
Yes. Well, one of the things that I've discovered in asking this question to many men of different ages is that generally men are saying they're a bit confused about what women want.
yes, but I have no problem taking direction from a lady. You know.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's right. Because if in many aspects, personal and professional, um, especially it's a woman's a woman director. Great, I'll take there's no reason why I shouldn't listen to you. Excuse me, I gotta make sure this doesn't.
Yeah. Do you think have you noticed over your career then in business or in acting, is there a different energy that a woman directing something would have differently to a man?
I don't think so. I don't. I just do what they want, whoever it is. Say okay, now we need to create this feeling in this scene, or they might change it over this. Whoever it is, whatever they want. Basically, that's who you're working for. So give them. They're paying you to do something. Give them what they want.
Yeah. And I believe you're working with a woman in the cosmetics.
Cosmetic business, yes.
Yeah. And do you think that women make really good business people?
Oh, there are great women, business women, and there are terrible ones. Just as there are great businessmen, as well as there are very terrible businessmen.
Yeah. And
I
what
don't
I've been
distinguish between.
no, but do you think business is changing over the last decades? Because when I study it, there's a lot more women now in business, and there were a
Oh
lot more
yes.
women, say, than 30 years ago, even 20 years ago. And a lot of women want to run business. They want to develop business, like the woman that you're working with as well. And they have a different view on how the market comes together. So they tend to use more empathy and more feelings.
Yeah, asking me or telling me.
I mean, I don't know. You maybe that you've always been so. I get the sense from you would honor anybody who works in a good way. So it wouldn't matter whether it was a man or a woman.
Yes, if you work well with the person, you know. Again, it's insecurities that would stop someone from, I mean, they either work with the person or they're going to sabotage it.
Yeah, and you don't know whether, in your view, there are differences that you've observed that could be down to men or women. Because I often find sometimes men say, well, I just want everything in a very straightforward way. A yes, no, more decision making. And women sometimes don't do that. They sometimes become too emotional, or they become too.
Well, some do and some don't.
Yeah.
You can't categorize all women. They're going to be emotional here. Oh, they're going, or they're going to show more empathy there. No, some do and some don't.
Yeah.
You're all individuals.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things I've been studying is different types of women, different types of men, and how the best mix comes together. So what is the best combination of men and men, men and women, women and women? Because one of the things that seems to have turned up with the Me Too movement over the last 3 years.
It's about time that happened. Yes.
Yeah, it's put a bit of pressure on men to willingly take women into the corporate America boardrooms. I mean, you used to work with Xerox, which in its day was a major organization.
Yes.
And maybe in those days it was run by men. I knew some people in England who worked for Xerox, and they had two major decades of female leadership, I believe.
I know about, I'm not sure exactly when, 10, 20 years ago, yes, their CEO was a woman.
Yeah. And by all accounts, she was they were pretty tough.
Well, interesting, and it's something you mentioned earlier, which brought to mind to me about something, let's say about 15 to 20 years ago. I'm in my town back in Connecticut. I was very active with the Chamber of Commerce there. And they had a women's forum. And I was an ambassador with the chamber, so I went to support the chamber. And there was a woman there as a keynote speaker who was the president of a bank in New England. And she was telling women what to do, get a good mentor. And a lot of the ladies asking her questions were just, I don't want to say badgering her, but kept coming back to her saying, well, I'm not allowed to do this. Well, they're stopping me from doing this, and women can't do this. But she's telling them, she's trying to give them guidance of what to do. And a lot of them, I'm not saying all of them, a lot of them were still complaining of what they were not able to do. But they have to, okay, good, yes, you were screwed before, but now take a different path and take a different attitude. And and here's a woman who is a president of a bank, a good sized bank, and she's telling you what to do. How
to listen.
Yes, listen, and that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And in many cases, women have been women's worst enemy.
I agree.
From jealousy too. Jealousy and insecurities work both ways. Where men are insecure or a woman's going to take over his job, and he can't let a woman do that. But bullshit.
And bullshit.
but a woman is there's a saying. If you see someone's crown, help her straighten it out. Don't knock her down more.
I like that. I think that's very
the crown is tilted a little bit. Yeah, help her straighten it out. Don't just laugh at it or whatever. Something like that.
I like that, Harry. I think that is a very good piece of advice. I'm very often found that when I'm talking to women's groups and presenting, I'll get women to come up to me at the side and say, you've got to sort out women with women, that we don't always help each other. And I think that those, helping her straighten her crown up and getting her to listen is a really, really important part of it. Yeah. So the other thing that's coming into the work I do is that there's a different attitude through different generations.
Sorry, I hope the noise from the washer isn't...
No, it's fine. Okay. But in your experience now, I noticed that something the other day about making sure that there was a real range of gender roles in productions as well. So now we say actor instead of actress and actor, but that we the danger of becoming gender neutral is that we'll lose the wonderful things that are different about us.
Yes. Okay. I'm sure you never want to see a man playing Cinderella.
No.
You know? I mean, it's yes. I mean, as much you too many people want to make everything neutral. But it's not a neutral world.
No.
If a neutral world, we wouldn't be surviving. There wouldn't be births. you know, that's the end of the human race. That's it.
Well, that's right. And one of the things I often talk about is the value of differences. So there are different types of men, different types of women, in all generations and all cultures. And it's the mix that makes the difference. And actually, people are so argumentative at the moment. One of my rules for a magical conversation is the starting point is to not have a judgment about somebody else.
Yes. Even though we try not to, listen, it's only human nature to immediately, when you see someone, to judge them. It's, oh, that person must be that. You know, I mean, whether it's just for a split second and it doesn't last any longer, but we do, because visually you might hear something and you say, oh, that person sounds weird, you know, whatever. But we do judge right away. Oh, that's a nice person. Oh, he must be a jerk. Oh, you know, whatever, just from immediate. So there is judgment from the first moment you first hear or see them. There is.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I talk about in my book is how do we get away from that kind of assumption that we factor into judgments, and to be more embracing of everybody as okay, but different.
Yes.
So we need to value the difference. Otherwise you'd never have an audition for a role because everybody would be the same. You're looking for an actor that will relate to the part that you're trying to put over.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I feel very strongly that 2020 is going to be a wonderful year of transformation, but there's still going to be lots of arguments. So that the second rule that I put about in my book is to have no anger.
Yes.
Because people are very angry at the moment about lots of things. In
everything, yes, and it's been. I think I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think ever since 9/11, fear has been a big business, and it's a lot of people's interest to keep us fearful, and especially the last 3 years. Oh no, you have to be fear of those people. Oh, those people are going to take everything away from you that you already have, or they're getting more than what you get, and they're not doing anything. You know, it's all fear-driven. Everything.
That's right, and we have to bring love back into the equation.
Oh yes, yes.
And another word that I've grown rather fond of is synergy. I was looking at that today. Synergy is that the parts coming together so that the whole is more than whatever the individuals are behaving as. So if we take that with men and women, is that whatever we do individually in our own set, then when we come together, we make much more. We make 1 + 1 is 3. And if we can all manage that and really not get angry, be passionate, yes, but not angry, then we might get a bit further. Yes. So one of the things I do is to create, as I say, magical conversations where, like this, you know, we can talk about subject matters without being polarized in terms of, you know, is she old, young, black, white, gay, straight, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just be people, to be humans first.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
What do you see ahead for how we might create the future better between men and women? How could we do it better?
No one can do everything, but everyone can do something.
I like that.
That's what I've, you know, when people ask me why I did my organ donations, because you can, you know, and then I say that, well, you know, I remember talking to a woman, and I know this is getting off the path a little bit, a few years ago, and about my organ donations, and she was crying. I said, why are you crying? I could never do that. I said, that's not for you to do. You do things I don't do. I don't, you know, you can't do everything. So you pray for people. I don't pray for anybody. So you make up for what I don't do, you know. So, but find what's right for you to do, and you can't do everything. And you know,
I like that. I think that's really, really good advice. So, would that be a major piece of advice you would give to the future, to do now, to do what you can do, and do what you do best?
yeah, and if you don't do something, don't complain about the ways other people are doing it. If you don't do something about it, you know, like people that don't vote and complain about the political climate. Well, vote, you know. And
You're right, actually, that the other side of all the anger and arguments is that people do complain a lot. I mean, I find that in some of my women's conversations, that women will complain about not being able to get into those top roles that they want to be in. But I believe they can do anything they want to do if they really put their mind to it.
Just like anyone, if you want something, you have to give a little something else or give up something else. You know, if they think they need to be at home more and not be at work more, and if yes, single mothers really get the raw end of the deal. I understand. I feel that. So that it's much harder for them. But if it is a two-parent family and she wants to progress, well, he should be very supportive of that because it's only going to benefit the whole family. It's like the way, you know, but he might feel that, oh, she makes more money than me, but who cares? Get more time off, enjoy it more, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, Harry, because I think I think women nowadays are progressing so well. There are a lot of women aiming to and actually making a lot of money. And then many of them say to me, but I can't find a man who will want to be with me because I might be being more assertive and more wealthy than him. But actually, as you say, love will get you past that. There's no reason why we can't earn more than the other.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes, but it's insecurities, and I think that's unfortunately that's the biggest problems with people. They're not secure with themselves, and they don't know how to be because they've always been told, well, you have to act like this, and you have to act like this, and now. Young men, there's no guidance for young men. They have no idea what they're supposed to be.
That is a worry. I mean, there's
a man. Or am I supposed to be metro? Am I supposed to be gay? I mean, because you know everything is pushed. A lot of things are pushed onto them. That you have to be like this, and you have to be like this, and that too. You know.
Yes.
To just be who you are.
So, what advice would you give to the younger man who's challenged by all these things today and doesn't know?
Well, you might not use this part, but and I've been thinking about this a lot in the past year or so. Amazon did a 10-part series a couple years ago on Playboy and Hefner. Now, take away the centerfold part of Playboy, okay? When Hefner got his dream job at Esquire magazine, that's all he wanted to do is work for Esquire and have an impact, you know, write these great articles to give young men guidance.
Yes.
You know? And so he wasn't able to. So that's why the main reason to start Playboy, from what I got from that, was to give people guidance. Of course, the guidance then, you know, how to be a man, how to be a gentleman, and not a manly man, you know, but, you know, put a little sophistication, put a gentleman, you know, to be a gentleman. Of course, in there, it's how to make a martini, how to smoke a cigar, but which is, you know, just little flower stuff to me. You know, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But it was giving guidance to them. And I've talked to people, guys, because when I'm out, every time young men, even in their 40s, come up to me and say, oh, I want to be like you when I get older. How do you do it? How do you, you know? And and part of the conversation, I will ask them, does GQ, Maxim, or any of the other magazines give you any guidance or anything, you know, of, you know, and the articles can also be from, I think the best articles would be from women.
Yeah.
You know, and they said, no, there's no one giving them guidance. There's nothing out there, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's maybe a role for you then, is to give them some guidance.
I mean, there have been many people to say, but what avenue would that take? You know, I mean, you need a platform or
yes. Well, one of the words in there I want to pick up on is the word gentleman.
Yes.
I wonder whether, you know, an 18, 19, 20-year-old nowadays, what his interpretation of gentleman is. Is it James Bond? Is it, you know, did he have a father that portrayed that? You know,
yeah.
My father, who was born in 1912, so he's of a totally different generation past now. But, you know, when he died, all the people who wrote said he was such a gentleman. It was such a gentleman. And I was thinking that word isn't used very much now.
Correct. Yes. And women say that to me a lot. Not just that I am, but that men aren't, you know.
Yeah.
When I go out, it's just me. I'm not saying anyone else should do this. Even if I had this sweater on,
yeah,
I would feel, and at night, I would feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
A jacket.
Yes.
And, you know, a sports jacket or something. And it's also, it gives me extra pockets to put things in. you know, just for me, and women like it, you know, because I think what impressed me the most of gentlemanship or whatever was as I was growing up, the older movies or the Cary Grant or whatever. You know,
yes.
You know, those types of movies, you know, where the gentlemen, and with that is respect.
Yes, yes. And I wonder what the equivalent would be now of those kind of movies for the young kids.
I don't know.
Because they would be too old.
Actually, James Bond movies, he is a gentleman. You know, and so that, yes. But what gets me also is, and these young ladies invite it because they'll have, when they're having, let's say on Instagram, a video they're posting and everything, they want to feel like, but the music behind them is very foul language, saying what they want to do to her and everything else. I said, you're setting those, setting up those guys, saying that's all you women want now, you know, just, you know. But I do have a lot of younger women coming up to me also and saying, gentlemen, you know, there aren't any gentlemen anymore, you know, especially their age.
Well, that's right. I think it's something I shall explore more, because I think we've lost something there. And it's interesting because being British, I sometimes drop into saying to women, oh, well, look, ladies, and also sometimes American audiences go, and I go, oh, sorry, ladies, it's a very British term. And sometimes women feel affronted that I'm saying lady, but I mean it in the nicest sense, in the sense of a gentleman and a lady. You know, the lady in the Tram, the you know, the Cary Grants, the Breakfast at Tiffany, all that, you know, the elegance of opening a door, a man opening a door for a woman, and some women will go, oh, I don't need that, but actually it's just kindness.
Yes.
You would do it for anybody. But if a man and a woman get to the door at the same point and he wants to open it, I'm okay to say thank you.
It's yes, at any age, there's a difference between a girl at any age and a lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that the idea of lady, obviously in England we have the title of lady as well. but there is something about that respect for modern chivalry, let's call it that.
Yes.
Maybe that's something we need to explore with the younger boys and girls and make sure they understand what that is. Because I agree with you, there's so much music now of younger generations, which is, it's both foul language and it's very aggressive.
Yes, yes. And they use that as their background when they're doing their videos.
Yes.
Do you want that? What?
Yeah.
And then you get upset when someone thinks, oh, let me, I'm going to jump on her. That's what she wants,
Well, that's right. And it's all about expectation and setting intentions. If we live in a world of fear, then we get these aggressive points. And we know that's happening across the world. So my mission is to bring synergy, firstly in the business world, but then also in the private world of our families and our social groups. And I think we should design places where there's no noise and no telephones allowed, and you have to actually talk to each other.
Yes, exactly. Yes. There's one thing I observed a few years ago, and it was very upsetting to me. Going into a restaurant, a young couple, and the doorman opens the door, and the guy walks in. Doesn't let his wife or girlfriend go in front of him. So, and she's dressed, I mean, they were really nice for something, I said,
yeah.
What is with you?
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a simple little thing like that.
Yes. And I think that brings up a really interesting point, because there is this challenge about equality. Because I know I would be, if a man if my partner walked in ahead of me and brushed past me, I would be as upset. But younger generations sometimes might say, well, no, it's okay because we're all equal. But it's a courtesy. It's like,
yes, exactly.
if you partner dance, so if you do a waltz or whatever it is, one person has to lead. And the commonality is for the man to lead. Obviously, sometimes women dance together, and even the Argentine tango was danced by men together. But there's always a lead, and generally, in a male-female dance partnership, the man is taller and does the lead. And why isn't that okay? I mean, this is something I think we should get to grips with and not be so specific about equality. I think that with the value of differences is better than really pursuing equality without, which separates people.
Excuse me. I have no problem, dance or otherwise, letting the woman take the lead, because it might be, she might lead you in someplace you've never been before.
Oh, absolutely. So it's like, I believe we should have some situations where the women leads, and I'm all for women leading business, but also to be able to understand the modern chivalry of allowing a graciousness between men and women, where a man can open the door or lead the dance. So, he doesn't have to pay the bill every time. She can pay the bill, but it's about being flexible, I think, and understanding that every situation is different. And that if we follow those rules of no judgment, no anger, and no over coercion of trying to make somebody do something they don't want to do, we could actually have a magical future.
There's, I want to get to this point. This story I tell people a lot, especially women. A few, maybe 4 years ago now, someone from Facebook invited me to be on their talk show, radio talk show. So I phoned in. It was two ladies doing it. I think they're in Vegas. And they had, the whole thing was about online dating first, And we're talking, I said, and this leads into what you're talking about. And I said, I can't do it. I said, I've been through a war and a couple of wives. Nothing scares me, but that scares me. I can't do it. I said, you can tell more about a person from Facebook than you can from any dating site. You know, see how they react to people. See what
Yes.
they post. Are they angry? If they disagree, are they blasting the person that they disagree,
Yes.
or are they trying to find, you know, some kind of common ground? And look at the candid photos. 99% of the time, it's going to be correct. Of course, there'll be some that slip by.
Yeah.
But then, you know, but anyway, we got to the point. They said, "Well, what do you think about?" I think these are ladies in their 30s, and I said, What do you think about the way guys dress today?" I said, "It's your fault." So what? If you want to get dressed up and go out nicely, and your guy doesn't, and you allow him to act like that, then, you know, don't complain about it.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to go out to a dressy thing, then go. You know, do you want to feel glamorous? You want to feel this? Every woman does.
Yes.
99%. Okay. And if he does it a second time, that's showing you that he doesn't respect what you want. You know, he just, I want to be one of the guys. I don't want anyone to think I'm whipped, you know. Anyway, and I said, you have more power than what you know what to do with. You know, really.
I agree. Yeah,
They're afraid. I don't want to be alone. No, it's being with the wrong person is worse than being alone. Much worse.
Absolutely, and I think that's true of every relationship, whether it's
exactly.
one or a business one. And it's a lot about ownership, and I think that's the good side of what I see in the world. Is there are a lot of people now more aware of awareness. You know, that there's more opportunities to learn about yourself, but we still got a lot of people who don't have that awareness and feel controlled by somebody else.
Yes, and they did say, yes, we do have more power than what we know what to do with.
Well, that's right, and I think I'm so fascinated by all the arguments at the moment, because I think most of the time we're not actually listening to each other, or else we're listening and we're not hearing, because we can still not agree and be friendly or, you know, open-minded about each other. You know, the old adage, agree to disagree. But even nowadays, we don't seem to be able to do that, and especially in my studies of men and women in business. So I'm hopeful of the future, Harry.
I think, you know, yes. And social media can help or hurt. You know? It can.
And I think that's we'll draw this interview to a close, and I'm going to stop the recording, but we'll carry on for a bit. But it's been really fascinating. I'm going to share this with my viewers, and I think it's really important. What I always suggest to my female and male viewers is to listen with both ears and with your heart, because everybody has a different view. Unless we listen to those views, we're never going to get to a future which is more abundant than it is now. So
you can't learn anything if you're talking all the time, or especially if you're arguing. You can only learn by listening.
Only learn by listening. So take note of those words, and stay on the line, Harry. Let me just finish the recording. Thank you.